Achieving financial independence is not easy, especially at a young age. Today, we are joined by Radhika Gupta, MD and CEO of Edelweiss AMC, who has done so while still in her 30s. Welcome, Radhika. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Josh. Pleasure to be here.
Radhika, to start off with, if you can give us a broad picture of your financial journey, what has helped you in achieving financial independence? If you can tell us about what have been some of the key elements in your journey.
Sure. So I come from sort of a more middle class family, like many of us. I think so. I didn't really have much knowledge of investing, etc. But I started earning pretty young. I started earning at the age of I think 21, 22 when I graduated from college. And I think one of the things as a woman that I was brought up with from my mother in the very early days is that. Regardless of what you do, you have to earn your own money and you have to sort of save it. So I think for me, financial independence started from there. I saw my mother earning, I saw my grandmother earning, and they wanted each generation. My mother said, regardless of what you do, who you marry, whatever you do, you have to be financially independent. So I think that was inculcated at a very, very young age. And then I started earning full time at 21, even though when I was in college and I studied a little bit on loans and some on scholarship, I used to get some small income, from internships or things like that. But once I started earning properly, I started at McKinsey. I was very careful to save. So while I did have fun and I did enjoy the money, and it's always nice to earn money when you're young and you have that freedom and you worked hard, I was very careful to save. Actually, I didn't start investing till a couple of years later, and obviously, I've made many mistakes on the investing journey. But that's really how it started. I had a phase where I put all that capital into moving back to India and starting a business and not having very much income. And obviously, then we sold the business, got income back, and I've been building our investments and assets over the last few years.
I wanted to know, Radhika, from you, what has been your sort of approach towards borrowing, towards debt? If you can tell us a bit about that.
So I am a fairly conservative investor. I think I have learned conservatism because of my profession. I work in a high risk profession, which is very linked to the market, that is capital markets. So when markets are good, your AUMs are growing, your flows are growing, your revenues are good, your performance is good. And I work for a financial services company, which is an NBFC pet, whose stock price is also linked to capital markets. But when markets are bad, there's all losses. So I actually don't take too much leverage. I don't even take leverage to exercise stock options. The only place that we've had leverage is home loans, which I think is a form of leverage that should work for everyone. I think today interest rates and borrowing rates for home loans are cheap enough in India that even if your portfolio is earning 9 to 10%, it works for us as long as you can pay the EMI. So that has been our approach to leverage. That's been the only leverage. I don't believe in taking leverage to buy equities, etc. That fundamentally I think is a something that doesn't sit well with me. So leverage has only been to the extent of a home loan.
And Radhika, also, like you pointed out, how it started with you at a very young age, at a early age, at 20. But I wanted to, get a sense about, how your asset allocation has changed over the years from 20s and now, in your late 30s. If you can tell us a bit about that.
So I think I've only learned asset allocation by making mistakes. I think in my early 20s and mid 20s, when I started earning, I followed the adage that whatever you have, invest in equity because you're young. And while one saw some very good times in 2006 and 7, one also saw the very rough times of 2008. And as I said, my profession is so market linked, and I also happen to be married to someone in the same profession. So it's sort of double beta on the Nifty, effectively, is what our life is. And after that, I think we have, as a family, made our asset allocation a lot more conservative. So today, we have a significant amount of money in balanced funds, balanced advantage funds, which are the core of our portfolio. And then we have some small satellite allocation to mid and small cap funds and some allocation to global funds. Again, global funds is a category we've been investing in since we moved back to India in 2011. We really believe all your allocation can't be India. So BAF is your core, and then mid cap, small cap, and international funds is your other allocation. I don't own fixed income outright because BAF takes care of my fixed income needs in a tax efficient way. And anyway, I have a home loan.
also, you do regular SIPs. Are these investments done via SIPs, or how do you do that?
Oh, so I love SIPs. I have SIPs running into all these funds, monthly salary, into the BAFs, into the mid and small cap funds, into the international funds. And then in the same funds, if there are bonuses, etc., and you want to tweak your asset allocation, then you can also do lump sum. But essentially, a large part of my portfolio has been built up by SIP. In fact, whenever we look at it, my husband and I keep saying that just by doing a simple SIP, the portfolios build up to much more than we thought. And our XIRRs, even on a product like BAF, have been 14-15% on an SIP basis. So actually, I really believe that SIP is the simplest way to do things, and you get a better outcome than you expected.
And also, Radhika, you did mention that some of the mistakes you have made at the early stage of your journey. If you can talk a bit about the mistakes you have made, and also more importantly, what have you learned from them? If you can share a bit about that.
So I think, as I said, biggest mistake is believing that there is one right approach to personal finance. Just because, I don't believe this 100 minus age and stuff. I think there are 25-year-olds that can afford to take a lot of risk, and there are 25-year-olds that have significant liabilities. And there are 70-year-olds like my father who have a fully funded home and pension and a working wife and settled children who take much more risk. So my dad's portfolio is mostly equity. I mean, he's more risk taking than I am. So I think following through these standard adages really doesn't work. I think personal finance is personal. You have to do what works for you and what makes you comfortable. And I learned asset allocation out of my first mistake. I think the other thing that I have made mistakes on is you have to not be very, very concentrated. So if ESOPs are a large part of your net worth, make sure that that is limited to a certain amount because it can be volatile. Just don't fall for anything too much. Have some diversification in your portfolio. I think the one thing that has worked in terms of non-mistakes is doing international investing. That is definitely worked.
Okay, sure. Sure. So, Radhika, in conclusion, how would you sum it up? If somebody is also on that path, also wants to achieve financial independence, what she should be thinking about, and how she should plan, she or he for that matter, should plan their investments. What would be your advice?
So start early, one. That's very important. Second is enjoy your money, because money also is to enjoy, but save. So find a balance between saving and spending, and invest what you save. And don't worry about making mistakes, especially when you're young. Mistakes will be made. The best make mistakes. The good news is if you make them when you're young, by the time you are older and have a lot more money, you'll be in much better shape. And be educated before investing. So investing is serious business, right? It's not that hard, but don't go to Twitter and get some random advice, and go to Google and go to your friends and get some study, understand, and then park your money.
Sure. Sure, Radhika. Thanks a lot for your time and sharing your journey with us. I'm sure this will be helpful for a lot of our viewers who have tuned into this episode. Thanks a lot, Radhika.
Thanks, Josh.